Hello, everyone. I'm feeling the holiday spirit, so we're going to paint Atnas the Child Eater from Kingdom Death Monster. We have a figure that is basically Santa Claus. A very weird Santa Claus, but Santa Claus nonetheless. I want to paint him in a generally kind of Santa vibe. So I'm going to do the typical red and white-ish suit with probably some gold accents. But one of the things I would like to try, and I've talked about it on stream before and how difficult it is, but I'm going to go for it anyways, is I want to paint his suit in red velvet. And red velvet is weird. So we're going to look at, real quick, how the heck red velvet looks and how it works. Well, velvet in general. Okay? So let's pull up a picture that I've saved so we can look at this handsome gentleman wearing this crushed red velvet jacket and kind of talk about the light and how velvet works. So if we look at this picture, we can see that the light is coming in from generally the left side, right? Light sort of comes in this way. But it's illuminating quite a bit of his face, right? We have basically the light like this, right? Okay, so the left side of his face is illuminated. Nacho Gonzalez are, hola a todos. What's up? We're talking about velvet, because that's what I'm going to paint. We're painting a Santa Claus. ¿Cómo se dice velvet in español? I don't know. Ese tipo de ropa. Ese tipo de ropa? Terciopelo. Okay. That's a new word for me. A new word. Okay, so the light is generally coming in from the left side, but I want you to look at the areas that are facing directly forward. And notice just how black they are, right? So when we have this sort of fabric, you can see that the areas where the fabric is basically facing straight forward. Yeah, so the velvet, how it is constructed, instead of a flat weave, right, when you have fabric, it's woven, right? The threads go like this. But when you have velvet, it's like this, and then there's all these little hair loops, right, that stick up. Okay, it's called pile. And depending on how it is brushed, right, it can change the way it reflects light. But basically, the idea here is that when you get towards the edge, all right, and you're looking at the little, if we were to exaggerate and looking at them like this, right, they catch more light on the side. They reflect more light when the hairs are pointing out to the side than it does when the threads are facing straight forward. So here it's like they're looking directly at us and we can see through them, right? So they're pointing directly ahead, so we don't get much light reflection. But when they're facing sideways, right? So here they're going like this. Here they're going like this, right? Here they go like this, but here they're facing forward. Now, there's nothing to reflect here because it's facing away from the light. But you can even see these like upward facing parts of these little folds, right? You have the light reflecting off of it, okay? Now, basically that means is that what we want is when the fabric is more tangential to the viewer to have more light and more color. All right. So here they go like this, but then here they face straight forward. Almost the opposite of the way we would normally paint a material like this, right? You can see highlights on the satin, right? This satin tie. The brighter highlight sections tend to be in areas that face directly towards the viewer, as opposed to the opposite, right, with velvet. Okay, you can see in his eyes the white dot is nearly in the center of the eyeball, right? So velvet works nearly opposite to the way normal materials work. This makes it very difficult because, let's switch back to this camera. This effect is very hard to pull off or will not work from many views, because what happens is if we paint him as the main view like this, and we want to paint the light more on the side, right? So that more of the reflective part appears on the side of the fabric, right? What happens when we spin it, right? So now if we were to look at him from this view, there would be this like big highlight running like right down the center of him, okay? So this makes it very hard to pull this effect off on a figure that you want to be able to spin, right? You want to be able to rotate it and view it from many different angles, because on a figure like this, where we have a gaming miniature and he's going to be changing facing, right? A lot of times you're going to be looking at him, you know, from a near top down or like looking at him from the side and rotating him. Like this is going to be your different views of this guy when playing on the table. So instead of going extreme and doing all the way down the side of the body, we're going to stick to doing these big, brightest highlights more towards like the top of the folds. Okay. So where we basically get, the view of like these folds near tangentially, and even doing some highlights along the bottom sections, right? These bottom folds, because if he's going to be standing in snow, which is the idea, I'm going to base him on a snowy base. He takes up most of his base, to be honest, but there will be some snow like out here. We might get some reflections off the ground, which will create some light on the lower portions of these folds. So we're going to stick to doing more tangentially above and below than we will from doing side to side, if that makes sense. Now, sometimes we can have areas like this where we can do a bit more of the side, because of the fact that like this view is very limited. Like when you start to turn it, you don't see all of the like side. So we won't have this like big nasty rim light going down the side of the sleeve, because we are spinning, like the view is limited based on like the front of the model. Did any of that make sense? Or am I just going completely crazy? All right. So the things that face, we're going to pick a main view. Okay. In this case, I think it's something like this, right? I think this is the best facing for this model. So we're going to have this as kind of the main view, and then we're going to stick to areas that like face upwards or downwards, and sometimes the sides. So anything that is facing near directly forward at the moment will be more black, right? Blinken Park Bomb, hello, how are you? Thanks for the tier 1 11 months, appreciated. Evening, folks. Eric, thanks for the feedback on my Nurgle Dude, much appreciated, and some good ideas I will use on the new Warhammer Quest Nurgle stuff. Glad to hear it. How big is this model? It looks like it's 150 millimeters plus. It's pretty large. Hold on, I can grab, here's a Space Marine. Always have a Space Marine handy for scale. So he's like 3 Space Marines tall. So like around 100 something. I wanted to explain conceptually first, Steve, so that people at least have like the explanation of the technique, and then we can actually do it. How long does it take you to paint a model like this? As long as it takes. I mean, it really, for me, it really depends on just, yeah, how much effort I want to put into it, right? How crazy do I want to go? How refined do I want to paint? You can tell I've been doing a lot of painting recently because my brushes are still packed up from my trip. Some of them, anyways. Have I painted velvet on a Mini before? No. No, why would I do that? I have, actually, that's not true. I've tried something kind of velvety before, but it was weird. What's going on behind his head? Is it smoke? It's a weird smoke monster with teeth. You know. It's normal that this is a, like, can you guys even see that? Can you see that it has, probably not. There's like a row of teeth here. Eric, have you tried Rublo brushes and what do you think about them? They're fine. Yeah, it's like antlers, but it's like smoky antlers with teeth. And then there's a sack of babies. You know, he's got his sack and it's full of babies. And then he's got weird tentacles. They remind me of the tentacles of what's the character from The Boys? The girl. You know, like they come out of her mouth. Hi, Kacha. How are ya? So yeah, you know, babies and hands and things. It's just normal stuff. Normal, everyday normal KDM stuff. All right, so we need a dark red. We need a lighter red. I don't know which ones. We can use the new mini color stuff. What else do we need? We're gonna need eventually like a even slightly brighter one, and we need like a black, like a something so dark. He's the uninvited guest. There's a actual event in the game called, when he shows up, called Uninvited Guest. Whoa. It was a little, I made a mess. Whoops. All right. I did indeed. So, why does this feel so far over? There we go. All right. So what I'm going to start by doing basically is just mixing like a very dark reddish tone. And we're going to begin by like picking out some of these areas where the cloth sits quite flat to us, all right? So almost like the opposite of general highlighting here. We're instead going to paint this nearly black. The many colors are pretty good. So here. So everywhere we're seeing like white show up, right? That's where we want it to be the most black. Inverted highlighting or something. Actually, an interesting way to get the a reference for this might be to take like a reference photo and literally invert it, you know? That might kind of work. But you actually can see, maybe, can you see like on the edge where it's reflecting the white, like the white of the background? Like in here, can you see that? That's actually sort of the effect we want to go for. How do they compare to Vallejo? I like the new Vallejo monocolor a lot. They're both good. I just use whatever. Whatever I like, you know? Kobzar? I don't know which one that is. I'm really bad with names. All right, now we're going to take some more pure red. And areas that we have facing upwards, we're going to start to create more light there. And we're going for like a very deep, like burgundy red. I might exaggerate a little bit so you guys can see it a little more. The sort of lute player. No, I don't think so. But I do like the guy that Alessandro painted quite a bit. The one with like the anchor through him. That one was very cool. Is that one going to be for sale? All right, so we can do some areas that are like this, where because these have such limited views, right? I was kind of talking about this, like because this arm really blocks this view, we can do more of this sideways sort of light here, right? So we almost want to paint him from like above. So we're aiming for a very dark, like burgundy red. I want the trying to keep it moody, you know? Oh. Well, too bad. Buenas tardes. ¿Cómo va? All right, so just sketching sort of light here, right? I'm not trying to be perfect right now. There's going to be a lot of little volume work here and there. I'm just trying to get where generally light would go. And then I'll start to focus more on like getting it perfect. But things like this, right? We have lots of little folds here, so we can play around with trying to get these shapes just right. I normally talk about, there was a big discussion the other day in the Discord about varnish. And do you varnish your models, and what type of varnish do you use? This might be a time where I want to ultra matte varnish, because when it comes to the black surface, because I want that black to look, I don't want it to have really any shine to it from the front view. I'll probably end up having to ultra matte varnish it in order to make it look like really, like not have any reflections from the main viewing angle. Vazde. Gracias. Muchas gracias, señor. And CW. Hello. Thanks for 5 months. 2 months and 5 months. Evil Santa? Yeah. No, it's Atnas. He's Santa Claus. He eats babies, which is a totally normal thing, right? Very reasonable thing to do. I'm just saying, guys, grocery prices are getting real expensive out here. So here I'm going to do some red on the bottom, right? So this is the light that's going to be sort of reflecting off the snow or off the other part of his jacket, right? So we're basically painting an inverted lighting situation where everywhere where you think would be brighter is going to be darker, and everywhere where you think should be darker will be brighter. I don't know if it will perfectly come out looking like velvet, but it should cause for an interesting sort of effect anyways, and maybe it will look cool on the figure in the end. So how about you guys? Have you ever tried a velvet fabric before on a miniature? Did you have trouble with it? How did you sort of approach it, or? Here, quick question. I constantly hear artists say, if you have a warm light, then you have a cold shadow. Is this an oversimplified way of viewing highlights and shadows? Wouldn't the environment play more a factor into this? Yes, it would. It is an overly simplified, but also you need to remember that warm and cold do not necessarily mean like blue and orange. Okay? A gray can be a gray orange can be cold compared to a saturated orange. All right, give me a second. I'll give you a literal example. Is this a warm or cold color? Is it? Is it cold? How about now? Is it warm or cold? Or how about now? Right? Cold, warmer, warmest, warmister. Right? So it depends. It's cold next to this, but it's warm next to this. Right? So relativity, exactly. It's about context. Okay? You can't just like, it's hard to say, yes, this is a warm tone, but even still, if I put this next to, say, I don't know, this, which one's warmer? It's very difficult. Okay, so you have to take into consideration the context. All right, a lot of this area I'm going to leave quite dark. I want it to be quite dark. I'll add some highlights and stuff to the folds, but let's just get some color down. We want some of these areas to be very dark red. I don't know how much you guys can see this color, but you can probably see it on the palette better that it is a like very dark, like slightly magenta-y red. I'm going for this sort of dark burgundy, slightly colder red. Like here, to me, this looks quite purple, but I don't think the like quite magenta in tone. But I'm sure on camera, I'm thinking you can kind of see it in a way, but yeah, it's very hard to say for sure. And this guy does not love to stick down to this. So at some point I will be adjusting his base. Okay. And then when I hold him up like this, you can start to see where some of the highlights are, which are way different than the highlights I'm seeing. So a lot of those are where I'm going to want these like more upright facing highlights. That's where I'm going to want more of the velvety highlights. Yeah, we're going for like a dark maroon red. I don't like bright Santa Claus. Okay. Deep maroon, like a burgundy red Santa Claus outfit is way classier. Bet you guys didn't expect I'd be getting opinionated on Santa Claus outfits in this stream. Hi, Noble Wizard. Yeah, I'm sure it looks basically black, but it's quite reddish. This is always a hard thing to show on camera, is like how subtle some of these really dark tones are, these chromatic blacks. But the value is more important than the exact color. Just know that like a lot of these forward-facing areas we want to be very dark. What's on the palette? Black, dark red, dark, hold on. Claw? It's claw. I don't know what that stands for. I'm bad with the, I don't know the exact, and this is CH. You guys know I don't pay attention to the names on the bottles. Yeah, they're mini color. You should know by now. You think Adam had a bright red Santa Claus in mind? I'm not so sure. The problem is it's hard to look at the art and tell, because the art is always drawn with like super weird kind of like watercolory colors. At least a lot of the art is. So it's pretty difficult to know for sure what kind of exact look they were going for. A lot of the times you can, with a lot of the monsters anyways, you can actually tell sort of better what they were thinking by the like resources, the resource deck and the the armor sets on how the monster's like actual color scheme is, because the art is always drawn in a very unusual sort of color palette. Just get your brush back in there. Just get it in there. Now, people often ask, should I leave it in sub-assemblies? Well, this is a gaming figure and I don't really care what it looks like back in here because you'll never see it on the table. So, who cares? Dude, the Kusarigama Grimoire is awesome. I love it, and I can't wait until he comes out as a Indomitable Survivor or whatever. He's my favorite character design in Kingdom Death. And I'm looking forward to that figure, but I'm also not buying any more beta figures because then I end up buying the same figure twice when the actual card comes out. So on some of these upward facing parts, right, we can start to go a little brighter. Oh, I used to buy all the beta cards and stuff. Then I was like, nah, dude. It's not like I paint the resin ones anyways, so by the time like I would even get around to it, the regular one will come out. So I'm ruining it's just gonna sit in the closet in a brown box. I do love the all the Indomitable Survivors, actually, though. They're one of my favorite. Seed patterns, not a big fan of. I find seed patterns to be kind of clunky. The system of like drawing a random one. If there was like a way to guarantee that like there should be a system, and I don't know if he's working on it. I don't even know if you guys know what I'm talking about. Some of you do when I say seed patterns. There should be a system in place that lets you organize the seed pattern deck into like different phases of the game. Or maybe just like let you pick them, because yeah, the requirements on a lot of them are really annoying to pull off. Like, you need a guy's head to explode and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, cool. I'm glad I got this thing and then I'll never build it. By the end of the game, you end up drawing the whole deck anyways, so it's kind of pointless, but because all your newborns are basically born with the 3 understanding they need. I don't know why I did that. My brain was switching back to like default mode of how to paint cloth, and I'm painting the opposite, so I screwed this up. This should all be like black here. I went on autopilot. See, you paint things you don't paint normally. Do I have a specific texture in mind? I think the light placement is more important than the texture, but I might do some stippling at some point. If I think that will help the effect. What's the general environmental lighting you're aiming for, lit by lanterns or something else? I typically, when I paint my Kingdom Death models, I go with kind of like a neutral sort of overhead lighting. I don't think too much about like the like super like ambient environmental lights, because I want the figures to kind of look just good from a general from like just looking at them on the table. So I don't tend to overly complicate the lighting scheme too much. Here on the bottom of these, I'll add a little bit more red. Yeah, I don't like overdo it because, yeah, it's not, like I said, I want it to, it's most important to me that it just looks good on the table with the other figures also, right? But I'm going to go with like a kind of generally sort of cold ambience overall. Since he's wintry themed. And he creates blizzards and wind or something during his fight. How was the assembly of this model? Were there a lot of gaps to fill? There was a few. He required some milliput. You can see there's still some milliput like deep in the section there. So not the best. Not as bad as Black Knight, I'll tell you that much. That dude was the worst. Come on, stick to the thing, the handle. Thanks. Yeah, what's it called was Black Knight was bad. All right, so I need a lighter tone. Let's go back and look at the reference real quick. Let's see what sort of color that is. So you can see it's not the brightest red. If I actually select the sort of color that we're seeing here, it might look quite bright, but compared to the surroundings, right, that are super black, right? This is like pure black. Okay, and you can see it has a slightly purplish tone to it. You can see that this is like more in the middle, right? And it's also a bit desaturated. So we don't want to overdo this here. We don't want to like go way up into these like ultra bright pinks. We want to stay towards these like sort of middle tones, okay? So it's more about how much dark tones we use, a lot of blacks and really dark colors, and be kind of limited on how much lighter values we use on the red here. Even this is like, you can see it's kind of pinkish, but quite, yeah. So we want to use some probably white, or we could even maybe add like a little bit of like glacier blue or something, but we don't want to use reds like this. Like this is not the sort of color we want to go for. That's too intense. So we're going to stick to darker reds, and our brightest color, we can use like a pale blue-gray or something to add a little value. And we're going to aim for something that is on the slightly more desaturated side. What up, Aaron? How you doing? So you can see when we mix, we get this kind of like pinkish colors. Can even grab a little bit of that guy. We're just aiming for something like this, right? This like kind of middle red sort of tone. Slightly grayed out. How was your stream? What were you up to? And then we can, if it's too pink, we can always adjust it. More Smurfs. There's no chance you're going to buy that new Titus, right? Zero shot that's happening. All right, so what we're going to do right now, what I'm kind of aiming to do here is just start to like catch these tangential lines to these folds and start to give a little bit of highlight to some of these areas. Okay, so anywhere where it really feels like we're getting away from the like central section of this, we're going to start to push that light a little bit more. It might be. I might use this pale gray. I don't know. So areas like this where it's like really facing upwards, we can start to use this guy. See you, man. Have a good night. All these upward facing parts, especially on the sleeve here, a lot of this faces upwards. We can get some nice bits of reflection there. Yeah, this looks quite pink right now, but once we do the like short blend in between, there's going to be a very subtle like blend in between these two. So like the majority of our light is going to be this sort of pinkish and then switching to these others. And we're going to have to go through these more saturated tones in the middle, in between, in order to give it that very reddish feeling, even though we won't have a lot of that pure red. But the little bit that we do use should give us the reddish look that we're going for, right? So basically showing enough red to make it so the eye reads it as red in the shadows. Yeah. I mean, your eye picks up that it's red anyways in the shadows in hand. Like you can see that it's red and not pure black. But the sense here will be to, yeah, emphasize the transition area in order to enhance the like saturation a little bit in the transitional tones in order to make it feel even more reddish. You can see what this pink kind of does, where you have a very limited amount of it, really starts to give it that shininess, right? This little bit of desaturated red gives it some of that velvet shine, right? Hey, are you the gentleman that was on Get Good few episodes ago? I feel like I have seen you on the podcast recently. I was on the podcast at one point. I don't think it was super recently, but I was interviewed at one point. Hi, I'm Eric. All right, so this here, now that we've got a bit of that pink now to give us that shine, you can see that there's like a almost, if you look at it kind of like this, there's almost like a more satiny shine to it, right? If we aim it upwards. But then when we look at them from the front, it gives you more of that velvety feeling. Are you guys getting a velvet sense from it yet? Yes, no? Is it working? When you have a chance, could you swap back to the reference photo a moment just for comparison and wrapping my head around what you're doing? Sure. Let me zoom it out so you can see. Right. Turn them right side up. Ta-da! Okay. Yeah, it's still not quite there, but I think it's getting there. Okay, I just recognize the voice. I'm new, so maybe recently is just my perspective. This looks amazing. Can I ask what paints you're using? Mini color. At the moment. I want to get some of these parts like extra dark. So I'm coming back in, trying to reintroduce some of these like really dark sections. I'm going to go ahead and do the pockets red also. maybe they have some trim and stuff on them, so I'll add that later, but I'm just going to base coat them dark red for the moment just to get something on them. We want a couple of these areas to be basically pure black, so I'm going to grab some of the pure black. Basically, we're looking for areas that it's like shiny. Can you see where I'm like, the area I just painted that's wet is like the shiniest area, right? So I want this shiny areas to essentially be pure black because we're trying to invert the lighting, right? This is why they use velvet for backdrops on in photography, because it's the material, like the shape of the material causes it to absorb a lot of light. Wouldn't happen to know a hobby paint that is color shift from purple, blue to black? No, not off the top of my head. I know Vallejo makes some color shifting paints, but I don't know if they make that exact one. Okay. So let's mix a little bit more of this guy. Start to pull this up a little. So this is kind of the main view here. So I feel like some of this came around probably too far. I'm trying to look at it like this so I can see where that shininess should be. So it's kind of like here, here. It kind of goes up like this. I'm just marking this as like a reference to myself. I might reduce some of these areas, but I'm trying to get that kind of rim effect, see? can see where it's wet and it's the shiniest, right? You guys see that? Like along here, up the side like that. But it looks goofy like this. So this is why I don't think it necessarily, this is why painting velvet is so difficult on a three-dimensional model. You have to make some sacrifices, and that you know that it's just not going to, either it's not going to work great from every angle, like it could work perfectly in photography, but in hand it's just not going to work great from every angle. Or you have to make it sacrifice some angles, and the effect won't work perfectly from the main view, but it might work better from a general sense, you know? People think NMM is hard. I think this might be actually more difficult effect to achieve than NMM. We're going to call this NVV, non-velvety velvet. Warlock Des. Hello. Why is I feel like my follow notifications aren't coming up. Warlock Death, Anatomy Lesson 86, and Ergon Shark. Hello, welcome. I think I also has Dorian Miniatures and Toad Belay. Hi, welcome. It's my term, you can't steal it. All right? I'm the new inventor of NVV. Not very velvety. Okay, that's my I'm gonna trademark that. Oh, I already thought about the one of them, like one of Mark's busts to do like try and do velvet on. I think it was the Jazzman. I was like, what if you did velvet with like satin embroidery in it? Yeah, you got to mix the two. If you've ever seen certain, actually, I took a reference photo of a tablecloth in Monte. Actually, let me send it and I'll show you guys a picture. So I took this reference photo because I was like, this is super interesting. Airdrop it to myself. iPen. Let's take a look. So this is the reference photo I took. And I find this sort of thing really interesting because on the top of the tablecloth, you have, it's the non-embroidered part is very bright, and the embroidered part is looks dark, right? But then it kind of switches back and forth. And on the lower section, some of these parts are very bright, and the main cloth part is quite dark. right? But you can see if we zoom into just this section over here, that really only the main cloth is changing, and the embroidered section kind of stays the same value, right? Let me open it and what's it called, so you can see that it's like it's not really shifting values. Right, if we select this sort of average, this kind of value right here, this sort of average midtone, and then draw it like this, you can see it kind of stays the same, right? So now it starts to change in here where it's like clearly way different, but it's basically because the stitching is going, one stitching's going one way and one stitching's going the other direction. They have different reflection patterns. Right, like this and this are quite similar, but this is clearly like way darker than this up here. Absolutionists. Hello. Welcome. Thanks for following. It's not that they're different reflectivity, it's more that they just reflect light at different angles. So this is kind of how, sort of what's happening with velvet, is that based on the brushing, right? It's like if you have a suede couch or something, you can, actually, can I do it with my shoe? It's a little old, so I don't know if, no, I don't think it's going to show. But if you have like new suede, you can do the thing where you like wipe it with your finger or whatever, and it'll change the way the light reflects off of it, you know? Some couch cushions, you can do that too. You can like wipe your hand one direction and the lighting like completely changes on it if you go back the other way. What is his name? Gosh, I know exactly who you're talking about. I follow him. He's quite interesting. Andrew, yeah. Yeah, he does a lot of painting experiments. Andrew Kadima. Yeah, that's the guy. So I'm not going to mess with this area too much. I'm going to sacrifice a bit of the back view in order to make it work a little, like, so that the effect works a little better from certain angles, you know. The back is not the most interesting. All right, I'm feeling it. I'm starting to feel it. It's getting velvety. It's like opposite of silk. It's reverse silk. I'm using the Redgrass reusable paper. Inverted silk. Blah. It's NVV, dude. Come on. You don't know what NVV? So we can piss off a bunch of painting subreddits and painting groups on different places more. Discords be like, dude, you don't know NVV? You never heard of NVV, dude? We need more abbreviations in mini painting. This is purely an experiment. I think it kind of works. Everybody that's on the good server, go start just like spreading NV. Don't say what it is. Just be like, oh, I think I'm gonna try out some NVV and see if you get any people just like, what the heck are you talking about? But don't say what it is. Don't give up the acronym just when people ask, be like, this guy doesn't know. You don't know what NVV is? Come on, dude. All right. TV, yeah, True Velvet. That's actually just like covering your model in flock, like shiny flock. You know, like basically the it's like the tiny little like moss tufts. Just cover your model in that. That's True Velvet. Just cover it in glue and then roll it around in velvet. Apply it with a static grass applicator. You probably could do that. In fact, I'm assuming that's like. Do you guys remember? Okay, this is gonna give my age away. So, do you guys remember the old GI Joes that were like 12-inch Barbie scale? If you remember those, the way they would do their like buzz cuts for their hair, they had like real hair. They were basically like velvet. And I have to imagine the way they applied that was just they did glue and then used like some static applicator. The funny thing was is they had helmets and stuff, and I remember if you like pulled the helmet off too fast or like rubbed it, it would just like rip all the like little velvety strands off their head. And just you could see like you take the helmet off and then just like little puff of hairs would go everywhere. They just flocked their heads. We had them here in the UK and they were called Action Man. I remember the hair vividly. It was super soft, dude. It was like, you'd like, you know? They covered hollow rabbits in that stuff when I was little for Easter. Yeah, I mean, I don't know where the heck you would buy that stuff, but yeah, I mean, it's been done. True velvet, baby. All right, guys, I'm going to be right back in a few minutes, and we will continue on. BRB. Hello. Has anyone ever used nail polish on a miniature? I'm going to be doing an experiment. Yes, nail polish has acetone in it. Acetone will melt plastic. Literally, the stuff that we use, this, right? The Tamiya extra thin cement has acetone in it. Contains acetone and butyl acetate. This stuff welds plastic, ABS plastic together. I don't know how much acetone is in nail polish, but I assume in nail polish like enamel, so it probably has some sort of butyl acetate in it. I wouldn't recommend it. That's what I'm getting at. And it throws some matte varnish on it and it'll be fine, as it eats straight through the matte varnish. Well, prints are different. Prints are not plastic, okay? Prints are resin, so it's a different material. But like plastic miniatures like this guy, right? Or Space Marine, you know, it's a different material than resin. All right, let's see. Nope, not that camera. All right. Okay, so what do I want to do now? I've got some of the like rough idea here, or like rough layout for the red. I like that color. I think what I want to do now is start just like laying out some base colors on other parts. So let's find a tone for some of the fur. I imagine in the land of Kingdom Death that Santa here would use the white lion to create his white trimmed fur. So we're gonna go with. You think so? Santa always has white fur on his. Does anybody ever think about this? What kind of fur is Santa using for his like the white on his robes, right? Polar bears? Dude, Santa's out here hunting polar bears or the elves. There's an elf team that makes. There's an elf team that makes Santa's robes. And those dudes are out there killing polar bears. We're seals. Some elves out here just clubbing seals. Anyway, so I'm going to go with a, just like we did here, I'm going to go with like a slightly warmer mid-tone. Okay, as like an undercoat, and then I'm going to work up to a colder tone as we go up. I actually need to take some black and get it in there where the primer didn't cover completely, so I'll do that first. All right. Just get that in there nice and good. Santa's robes are made from Coca-Cola drinking polar bears is what it is. They lure them in with Coca-Cola. Eric, are you teaching at Nova again? I think so, but I'm not 100% sure yet. I'm pretty sure, but well, this Santa uses white lions as his fur source. Dude, I don't know. You will find out when they make any official announcements. White lions are a monster from Kingdom Death. What? Oh, what are the? Yeah. So the white line, yes, is actually the starting monster in Kingdom Death. It's the first monster you fight, and he has humanish hands, and he likes the feeling of hair touching people's hair, so he kills survivors and by petting them to death. Okay, I think this is kind of working. So you're saying bold survival? Maybe. It's not a rule in the game, but I could see that being a rule. I could also see alopecia be a disorder in Kingdom Death. In fact, is alopecia a disorder in Kingdom Death? There's some weird disorders in Kingdom Death. There's some funny ones. There's vestophobia. You're afraid of wearing anything on your chest. You learn some very interesting Greek and Latin terminology in Kingdom Death, because a lot of the disorders have very weird names. Glossolalia. That is, you can't keep your mouth shut. You just like constantly ramble on. Triskaidekaphobia. No, not glossophobia would be something else. That would be like the fear of running your mouth. That's definitely not what you have. Glossolalia is, yeah, you constantly run your mouth. And I think it's actually you just like speak in tongues, basically. Is you're just like not really running your mouth, you're just, yeah, like rambling nonsense. Santa, no, dude, this is Atnas. It's not Santa. It's way different. I was like, should he have a red hat? But then, I don't know. I'll have to check later. Quixotic disorder from from Don Quixote, which would it be quixotic and not quixotic? Quixotic? Like Quixote? Is Kingdom Death worth getting into? Come to us. Join us. What's some of the other disorders? Come on, guys, help me out. There's some good names for ones. I can't remember all of them. So I don't want to do his facial hair the same as this. It might end up having similar highlights, but I don't want it to be the same color. You can look them up online. So I'm sure somebody has a list of them online somewhere. Ibophobia? Which one's that? One of them is like you see faces and everything. Oh, ibophobia, yeah, the fear of palindromes. I forget the one that's like you see faces. There's also the one, the fear of holes. Like people who hate lotus flowers and stuff, or those frogs that keep their babies in the like weird holes in their back. Yeah, trypophobia. Hemophobia is a disorder in Kingdom Death. If anybody gains a bleeding token, you fall down. What color do I want to paint his sack? Pedophobia, is that the fear of children? Yeah. You can clip that if you want. That's fine. I knew it was going to sound weird when I said it, but I said it anyways. I think I want to do black. I think I want to do like a nice dark color, like maybe like a really dark turquoisey black or something, because I got to pick a color for the smoke too. And I don't know. So there's going to be a lot of light tones around here. No more velvet. I don't want to paint any more velvet, but it's got little skulls and stuff on it and all this stitching that I can do cool stuff with. But I want to make sure the babies are very visible. So I'll probably do a darker color so the babies stand out more. I'm thinking is there a green, a sort of green I could use? I mean, like something like this? Would this work as a good color? Maybe. I know, shameless self-promotion that you can't even buy it. Yeah, I think something like this could work. I'll probably go even darker than this, but... Oh, those are babies. One of the weirdest things about Kingdom Death, and I noticed it even more with Pariah and the Red Witches, is how, and this, he follows the same rule, where he is definitely not in scale with the rest of the models because these babies are way too big. So he's probably double the size that he actually should be, or maybe even more. Like the size of this baby is way too big to be in scale. This will also work when I do the snow. Because I'm going to do the snow kind of like turquoisey kind of color. And maybe I'll play with some turquoises in the smoke also. The smoke antlers. Hi, Gary. Spaceman Dan and Hip Hop Frogs I missed. I'm sorry. I think. Speaking of snow, do you typically use an ink? You can use an ink, or you can use like a express paint, or contrast paint. That works well. Like a teal or bluish contrast paint through the airbrush will work quite well. You want to thin it down first though, Like, you don't want to go too heavy. What am I going to do with his hands? He's wearing gloves. What color gloves does Santa typically wear? Black? Like, should I do his shoes black? Also with, like, gold accents? Maybe he's wearing black gloves. Nah, he doesn't typically wear white, right? Does he always wear white gloves? I guess he does. Brown gloves if you watch the Tim Allen movies. Well, he's Atnas, so if he normally wears white gloves, they should be black gloves. I don't know. I'm thinking gold. I think, yeah, I feel like I've seen him wear black gloves before. No white, no blood stains. Come on, guys. Don't be ridiculous, huh? No reason for senseless gore. Black velvet gloves. No, stop it. I don't want to paint more velvet. What have I done? I gotta paint his little bells too, you know? His jingle bells. Yeah. Aren't you guys getting in the holiday spirit because of this guy? I like the idea of some brassy accents, so I'll probably go with a gold that's a little more on the greenish side. I think that'll, instead of like a warm gold, we go with like a cold gold for things like the trim here. The mini swallows, I don't know. Nothing says, yeah, dude. Nothing screams the holidays like a weird. I'm also pretty sure he's drunk because he falls down a lot while you fight him. Like, he'll just randomly fall over. He has to have a very red nose. We have to give him a... That's why his nose is red, because he's drunk on eggnog. I actually really appreciate the what do you call it? Like folklore type characters that Poots puts into the game. Like, though it's internet culture folklore, I would call it still folklore. Like Slender Man is a boss. There's a set of characters that are basically like the Wizard of Oz. And you have, what's some of the other ones? The new set, is that more fur back here? Or is that smoke? I don't know. I think it's fur. The Abyssal Woods expansion, which they've talked about recently, is like more fairy tale stuff. They have Little Red Riding Hood and the Woodsman and Sleeping Beauty. So I think he likes cryptids and things. Yeah, Phoenix would be like actual mythology. What is the difference between what makes the difference between mythology and folklore? Dude, who's the one that cries all the time? What's the cryptid that just is sad and just cries? The Squanch? Is that it? He's like so ugly, he just cries nonstop. Whether or not it was a religion, is that actually what makes the difference? Mothman? Mothman sucks, dude. Mothman's lame. If you know, like, Mothman is weird. Like, oh, he gives premonitions, but then also kind of does this other thing. Like, Mothman needs to pick a lane, dude. Google says folklore being the broader category that includes all traditional expressions of a culture, such as stories, songs, and customs, while mythology is a specific genre of folklore consisting of sacred narratives that explain a culture's origins, deities, and the fundamental workings of the universe. Wow. Thanks for the definition. So basically religious. I don't know what's going on here. I can't tell what those are. Oh, the chupacabra. The Sasquatch stole your catalytic converter. Did you catch him like this? Like what? Walking away with your catalytic converter, trying to get that platinum? The Squatch, dude. I just can't support Mothman, by the way. Another reason is because my West Virginia rivalry will not allow me to appreciate Mothman. I can't say anything nice about them. Okay, so that works as like a base color. And obviously I need to be a little more careful with it, but I just want to see the kind of layers and how the tone is working. I think it works all right. As a white, fur that's not too white. Hello, odd question. What brushes do you use? What company and where are they made? I use Artis Opus. They are Kolinsky sable brushes made in the UK by some old British ladies. British. Yeah, oi, bruv. I use Artis Opus in it. Hey up, chat. That's my favorite. Hey up. What would be the difference if I get the same numbers? They are not made to the same specifications as Rosemary, even though they are manufactured by them. They have stricter quality control and they have their own specifications. I would know. I gave some of the specifications for some of the brushes. Well, helped. I wasn't on the phone with them or anything. Brush length, like taper, things like that. I was a beta tester on the flat points. He's looking kind of Santa-y, He's looking very Atnas-y. Anybody done this fight? I don't want to give any spoilers about it, but I will ask a question. If you did this fight already, actually, I'll just ask I'll ask first if anyone actually did the fight, because I'm curious if if you had the same experience as I did. Do you know when? Do you know if the flat points will be sold separately? I'm sure they will be sold separately. I do not know when. Right now you can get them in my brush set, and I believe Richard Gray's also has at least one in it. And he's a solid enough guy. He's a solid chap. Oh, I like the term swing set. I don't dislike the black gloves. It'll also help stay. I gotta make this a candy cane, right? There's a spiral on it. His sword cane. What paints do you like the most, but a brand that is not your sponsor? I don't, I'm not sponsored by any paint company. None of them pay me. Some of them give me free paints. I mean, if I'm being dead honest, I haven't paid for paints and I don't know when. They all give me free paints to test, but none of them pay me, so they're not sponsor. I'm not sponsored in that way. And I like many different kinds. I like Vallejo. I like the new mini color. I like Chimera. I like. I think you use what you are comfortable with. There is no like best brand of paints. I use all the different paints. I mix them together. Right. So far, what have we used? We got some mini paints, some Vallejo, some Chimera here. So I use a bit of everything. Nobody's tying me down with one paint brand. You want Pooch to make a giant weasel? That would be some very meta humor. What a question. Where do you see the hobby of miniature painting in 10 years? I don't know. Hard to say. People are just going to keep getting better and better, but I mean, I've been in it for 10 years and it's obviously gotten a lot better, but it's not like so extreme that, you know, there hasn't been a revolution in miniature painting like there has in miniature sculpting, like the change from traditional to 3D with the the advent of 3D printing. So what's your thoughts on the Warhammer Quest box coming out? The one with the Nurgle? That one? I think it's super cool. I like the figures a lot. I think it's a very, very cool set. I know nothing about the game, but do you think 3D machines will start painting the minis in 10 years? I think so. There will be amazing printed minis with great colors on it. There's already a printer that can like print in full like million colors or whatever. It uses some kind of voxels, which are basically, if you don't know what voxels are, they're basically 3D pixels. But until somebody makes it accessible, I don't know. I think you would probably use something more like Surface Painter, which is funny because I was having a conversation the other night with someone who works in the video game industry. We'll say that. And they were telling me how much the guys who do like surface paint, right? So there's a thing in you can do like 3D modeling kind of two ways. You can either like when you do texture modeling for 3D models for video games, you can either do it in like Surface Painter if you want like a more stylized approach, something like say League of Legends or World of Warcraft, right? Or you can do it like super realistic where everything is like based on lighting and realistic texturing and stuff, right? Something along the lines of say Call of Duty, whatever. And he was telling me just how much the guys who do the Surface Painter kind of texturing for models take inspiration from miniature painters and just how much of an overlap there is between the two. And I found that very interesting. Because basically when they do Surface Painter stuff like that, they're simulating the light and everything baked into the model. They're not relying so much on lighting. Kind of if you've seen Arcane, similar to how that show kind of works and is rendered, right? They're basically doing paintings on 3D models. So they look like drawings come to life in 3D or whatever. Do you think within the next 10 years we'll see Eric paint a 40K army? I can tell you that one straight up. No, I'm not doing that. Hell to the nana. No. Paint a couple more kill teams. No, a kill team is not an army. It's a kill team. I like filbert brushes. I like filberts. I actually like flats like this for certain things, you know. use a flat from time to time. It's good for painting like backdrops and bases and stuff when you want to do much larger work. I wish there was someone who produced like a nice flat brush, but I don't know what the I don't know what the audience for it would be. Can I show one filbert? Well, filbert is, there's multiple types of filberts. Filbert, one of my filberts is completely wrecked, so that one's not very useful to look at. But basically a filbert is like you have two. There's like the cat's tongue ones that look like this, but they look like a tongue, so it's rounded on the end. And maybe more like this, right? I mean, this is a dusting brush, but this is like the similar shape to what a filbert would be, but much thinner. This is like more like a makeup brush. I actually find some dry brushes to be quite useful for certain things. They can be quite interesting for stippling. Not this big, I wouldn't use this big. And then you have the arrow brushes or dagger, we call them flat points at Artis Opus. And that's a brush shape like this, where it is a round, but it is crimped. Why not just grab a flat Windsor used in canvas? Because they're probably made for oil paints. I don't know. Send me a link. Post a link in the Discord. I'll take a look. Somebody makes some. I liked these like synthetic. There's these ones called. They're from Creative Mark. They're called Mimic Kolinsky. They're like a fake Kolinsky, or a synthetic that's trying to mimic a Kolinsky. They make flats that are pretty nice. Unless a canvas counts as a flat, I ain't painting any damn flats. What up? Oh, I don't like how you worded that question. Why don't you try rewording that and I'll answer it? Oh, you mean if you want to know if I'm going to paint a historical military model anytime soon? Yes, I actually have a box art to do. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I am going to paint a military historical. And I'm quite excited about it. Okay, dumb question. What's the advantage of a flat or arrow point versus a rounded tip? When I pick up an arrow tip at Adepticon, I have yet to really use it very much. Let me explain the virtues of a pointed brush, of a flat point. So, here, I can cut this out. Hold on. Do I have them in here? You want a dang commercial? I have other brushes in here too. This one's wrong though. It shouldn't be this. It should be a small flat point. Let me find one, because we didn't have any. Do I have a size 0 somewhere? These are all S's. There is one. You guys have no idea how much of a mess my desk is right now. It is covered in brushes and crap. I need it to clean. Here we are. No, that's a S double 0. Where's a flat point 0? That's not quite a 0. That's bigger than a 0. I use them. I need them to send me some more, actually, because I use this brush quite a bit. I like it. I like it a lot. Is this a flat point? No. Where are you? What's the smallest one I have? Do I have one in here? Oh, here we go. This one's really beat up though. So it's not the best example because it's been used a lot. How big is this one? That one's quite small. But still not super tiny. So, okay. Let's imagine our brush set looked like this, but this doesn't have, huh? What's the quote that's inside the cover? Oh. How about that? Hmm? Yeah, you should follow that advice. It's important. Okay, so let's go over my brush set real quick. I don't have a good 0 in here because, or 1 I mean, because they're all kind of beat up because I use them a lot. I have a 2, which is close, and this is the old black handled ones. So the name has been changed. Okay. So essentially, what do we have in the brush set? We have a flat point 4. Oh. I would like this to be a flat point 5 in the future, but this is the biggest it goes right now. I want one bigger than this. Is this the same? Yeah. So this was one of the beta ones. The beta tested ones. So a current production model and a hella used one. You can see the difference in the color of the bristles. I would like one bigger than this. But I use this guy for doing, I'll show with the other one so I don't beat up the one that hasn't been used. So what does this thing do? Yeah, I'm not going to paint on my box because that's a waste of good. I got to screw up the box. Okay, I'll just paint on this. So, bunch of sanding sponges. The advantage of a flat point I have a larger one in my set for base coating. Okay, so when you paint with the flat down, right? When you paint with the flat down, it is able to spread out and create, basically function like a flat brush. All right, so you get nice wide brush strokes. All right, so you can get like nice thick fast coverage. When you turn it on its side so in the chisel direction, you can paint nice thin brush strokes. You can also nicely get into the corner of something, and then as you paint, you press down and turn, so you get from a very tapered thin line, right? It's never going to be you're not going to get it as thin with a brush this size as you would like a round, but you can paint some pretty thin lines, right? But then you can also paint nice thick lines. Okay, so that's the point of the flat, the flat point, the larger one, right? It's to be able to paint but it's extremely varied in how the level of thickness that you can get. All right, as opposed to something like a 5, which works, but I don't feel like it applies as even of a layer when you flatten it out. Like you can get, this is a smaller brush, right? This is a smaller brush, and it can get to the even wider than that one, which is why I would like one size larger. So yeah, you can do that, okay? Then, what else do we have? Let's go back to the set, huh? We have two S3s, which is the brush I use 80% of the time for the majority of my work, right? I use an S3. That's why there's two. And then we have an S1, which is skinny. Right? I use this for lining, for doing like really thin, lining work, like dark lining work and stuff. And then the flat point one, which this one is jacked up because I've used it so much, it's lost a bunch of hairs. So I'll show you on this flat point 2 where the sizes were adjusted afterwards. So this is a flat point 2, which is maybe equivalent in terms of length to where this ended up. The point of these guys is that when you're dealing with these small arrow points, they're much better at stippling. Okay, so if I were to take a 1, okay, so this is a 1. You can see the difference in the length of the hairs. This is a 1, right? So what happens when you try and stipple with this brush? And it's very hard to get a feel for this. Like, you're not going to get a feeling for it through the camera. So you're just going to have to trust me. When you stipple with a brush like this, the tip, you can see it, right? If I turn it to the side, you can see what happens when you press. The tip rounds over, okay? And it's very hard to know which way it's going to round over, all right? So it's not the most accurate brush for doing dots and things. It's just not quite, the tip just isn't quite stiff enough to do like really accurate dots. The crimp here on a brush shaped like this holds the point together, right? So these two come together like this, and it wants to hold that brush pointier. So you can actually feel the difference when you like take your finger, right? and you poke this one versus poke this one, right? The tip of this brush is much more stiff. So because of that, you can paint like much more accurate dots, right? I'll turn it slightly to the side so you can see that it doesn't round over very much. So you can paint, yeah, super accurate like dots. So this is this has become my go-to brush for doing like micro level details. If I want to paint eyes or do like micro stippling, this is my my brush. So the same shape brush here, but I use them in two very different ways. One of them is used for like base coating, the most like simplify or like least accurate thing ever. Not least accurate, but you know, the biggest, broadest strokes. And then the other is used for the most tiny details possible. So yeah, just the precision and stiffness of the point makes this one, makes the flat point one of my favorite brushes for micro details. Did that answer your question? You can get a similar thing out of the M, but I don't think it's as good. Here's a flat point. Which size is this? This is like a 2. I think this is the new 2. So you can see it's a little longer. The flat point is a 1. The problem, the black one I'm showing you, this is a problem because the sizes changed after these. Okay. So this size is not accurate to what the actual brush size is. I was looking for a flat point 0, but I'm not finding one on my desk. Of the new ones, or I mean a flat point 1. Of the new ones on my desk, because I use them a bunch. And they're all kind of jacked up. I need a restock. Anyways. Did that answer the questions? That was a good explanation. Now I can cut that part out of the video and post a explainer video of why I chose the brushes I did in my brush set. Do you think an ostrich or an emu would win in a battle cage? Dude, an ostrich would definitely win. Like, that ain't even close. Yeah, that's just sheer size advantage. That's like what's going to win, a tiger or a lion? Do you know how huge a tiger is? I don't think people realize how gigantic, like, Bengal tigers are. Yeah, a lion is big and scary. Hey, Eric, caught this late. Is it good? Yeah, it's going to be on YouTube later. Yep. Yes, yes, yes. And the title of the video will be NVV. I just invented a new miniature painting technique, as if it's a technique at all. It's definitely a technique, guys. I invented it. What about a moose versus a bison? A moose. Get at it, dude. That's not even a question. Come on. Don't ask silly ones. It's not meese. The plural of moose is just moose. Me? No. Hippo versus grizzly bear? Where? Well, like, what's the terrain? In the water? It's the hippo, dude. Who's got the home field advantage? Probably the hippo anyways, but grizzlies are pretty terrifying, man. The videos of grizzlies, like, fighting each other. I still don't know if I would discount a grizzly bear. In the water, yeah, for sure a hippo, but on land, I said that might be one of those ones where neither of them's walking away. Exactly. Like a knife fight, the winner dies in an ambulance. So those bear, like the bear fight videos are one of the most, anybody, I love one of the things, human men, yeah, men in general. We love, one of our favorite things is to talk about what animal we could take. And the fact is, you ain't taking much more than a house cat, okay? Unless you've got weapons or other things. You know, if you're in a pack with a bunch of spears or bow and arrows, yeah, we're taking anything down. Is it the argument of like 100 men versus a gorilla or a while ago? Right? Like pretty much anything is messing you up. But yeah, those videos of bears like fighting, that stuff is terrifying, dude. How fast they move. Gorilla versus a moose. Probably the gorilla. I'm going with a gorilla in that one, on that one. If it could avoid getting trampled, I don't think a gorilla would have any real reason to fight a moose, but oh, gorillas are terrifyingly fast also. We're slow as, dude, we're slow. Like, the animal kingdom, we are very slow. However, humans have the most endurance of any animal. Thunderbuckus, hello. Maybe not all of us. Certainly not me. I'm not outrunning a horse. But a horse will literally run itself to death before a human will. It's kind of terrifying. It's like that was that tribe that just like they don't even hunt animals, they just run them into like they just run them down until they die. Like you see that deer over there? Yeah, I'm just gonna chase after it until it dies from exhaustion. Hello. Like, what's the land speed of a cat? Like a house cat? Like 35 miles an hour? A house cat would crush Usain Bolt in a 100-meter dash. Yeah, what's the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? $30 miles an hour? And how fast is the fastest dog breed? Is it greyhounds or the other ones that are fast? The little, what's the other pointy, like little pointy breed? You know what I'm talking about? Borzoi, yeah. Those super weird looking. Whippets, those are the funny looking dogs. Borzoids are really weird looking too. All the ones that look like missiles. It's all the breeds that look like little torpedo dogs. Peregrine falcons like dive bomb. Side note, Eric, I'm about as impressed by your ability to keep up with chat while painting as I am with your general painting skill. I have to be totally focused while painting, and even then the results are lacking. Dude, I'm on autopilot most of the time. This is why I can listen to a lot of audiobooks while I paint. I know some people struggle with this, and why I messed up earlier while painting the velvet, because I went on autopilot and forgot what I was doing, and just like reverted back to doing normal highlighting like I would. Now I got it though. I got to paint the opposite way I normally paint. No problem. But yeah, dude, that's just practice. Like, I paint so much, my brain just shuts off, and I just do the thing, you know? There's nothing going on up here. It's just mindless execution at this point. Oh, that's it 95% of the time. No thinking, just brush strokes. That's looking velvety though, man. I'm actually I'm not too disappointed with that. Like the kind of it doesn't work so great when you turn it like that, but when you look at it from straight on, like kind of works, you know. Noticing you have paint kind of close to the ferrule. Is it okay because of the type of brush, or is it just not as bad a deal as I think? I mean, I try not to get it down in there too much, but I'm also not the best person to take brush care advice from. Magnus who? Fagerberg? Do you plan to finish this off stream or save it for future streams? I would love to see the progression of all components. I will probably paint certain elements off stream. Things like parts of the back of the model that aren't very interesting. Things like the sleeves behind here that you guys can't really see. So there will be elements that I paint off stream, but then I'm going to try and like normal when I do a figure on camera, I'll try and save the more interesting parts for when I'm streaming. But some of the stuff like, wow, do you want to watch me paint like up under here where you can totally see what I'm doing? No. So yeah, certain stuff I'll do off camera, and then other things I will save for on camera. But basically here I'm just going around and bridging some of these tones, trying to introduce some more deep reds into certain areas to make it like, you can see how much it changes when you look at it from above from when you look at it from the front. So I'm really trying to save some of the velvety parts. I think I need where this rounds up a little bit though, where it's like a little more vertical. I think I need a little more red to get that velvety feeling, and then save more black for the very forward facing bits. So something like that, right? Some of that deep red is really going to help us to like sell the color more. Would I add more tonal variations into the jacket beyond red hues? Still trying to understand how much tonal variations. Nah, probably not. I mean, it's already got some, like it's shifting between like the magenta and red. Red is also a color that you don't tend to get a lot when you deal with these like super pure colors. Red is definitely one of those ones that you don't get a ton of like color variation in. Like a pure red like this. So when I add tonal variations, it'll probably be more in line with like the whites and stuff will have more variation in it than the fabric will. I hope that makes sense. I could even use some of this like mixed with this if I wanted like a deep. You can see that this creates like a almost like deep purpley color. Like if it's gonna look black here, but if I thin this out, it turns kind of violet. So you can use tenebrous teal as a shadow color for red. If you want to go to like pure black. There's some secret tips for you. My color has some uses. What paints are the reds? They are the mini color. I don't know the names of them because my bottles have 3-letter codes on the bottom. I don't know which ones are which. How are they? Good. They're not the like heaviest in terms of coverage, but they go on quite smooth. I would, if I was to compare them to something, I would say they're like close to maybe like in between Citadel and like AK 3rd Gen in terms of finish. When you say that red doesn't have tonal variations, no, I say it doesn't show tonal variations as much because it's a very... Whenever you get to the most saturated colors, right? How does a color work? Yeah? Why is a blue blue? Right? Why is this blue blue? This is even the most saturated blue that you can get to. Right? But why is a blue blue? Or why is a red red? Come on, class. Explain your paint knowledge to me. Show me you know physics. Why is this green green? It reflects that color of light and absorbs the rest. Exactly. So if it's absorbing the rest, right? And you have these super red reds, Yeah. The more red a red is, that means it's absorbing more of everything else but red, right? So you're not going to have as much tonal variety in something that is pure in color than you would to have in something that is more tertiary in color, where it can reflect more tones. Does that make sense? Let's take, for example, let me see. Let's see. Let's put this next to this, yeah? You can probably see a bit of that red, right? Especially as I do this. Yeah, the Fresnel effect. Whoa, it's crazy, dog. Look at that. Look at the Fresnel effect in action. Look how much clearer the reflection gets. Anyways, right, you could see some red appearing in the white. Yeah? The go Fresnel. Yeah, should be able to. Yeah. Okay. What if I do the same thing with a blue? Bleh. What color does that become? Does that look red to you? I don't know if that looks very purple or if that just looks black to me. I see some green. How about that? There's some green reflecting in there, yeah? The red is not so much. So, yeah, you have to consider the color of the thing, right? And that certain colors are going to be more likely to appear. So, and the more saturated a color becomes, the more, the less you'll start to see the other colors begin to appear in it. Did that answer your question? So a white that reflects all colors, you're going to have, and things like a skin tone, they call us white because we're pretty dang close to it. Your skin, right? My skin is going to reflect a lot more colors than something that's pure red will. Science. Depending me with science. Something with technology. You just have to learn physics and then you can paint anything. Now, the interesting thing is once you've learned how it works, right, you start to understand the physics of it. Then you learn how to break it, right? Then you learn to have interpretation, artistic license. Do you guys know any fine artists with fine art degrees? I'm sure there are plenty out there. Looked up some Kingdom Disorders while ads were playing. Corporalia. Hoarder, Fear of the Dark, Immortal. Also, how much is a sub so I can turn these ads off? Support you? Well, you can use a Prime sub if you have Amazon Prime. I don't know how much a Prime is, or a sub is. Also, if you sub, you get access to Feedback Friday channel in the Discord where you can submit models for viewer feedback. Wow. You were a voice and stage actor for 5 years with a bachelor in fine arts. Wouldn't that be like... Wouldn't that more likely to have like a major in theater or something like that? I don't know. Basically what I'm saying is you don't need a degree to be an artist. And you certainly don't need to be an actor either. You just need to be really, 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 really good looking. I mean, if Gal Gadot can become a famous actress. No, Khalil. Like... It's definitely her acting talent. I'll tell you that much. Sure. Yeah, for sure. There are some very good actors who are not considered traditionally handsome or attractive, right? Or pretty, but there's a lot more who are. Gonna probably have an easier time if you are. Are there different styles of mini painting based on region? Like, can you tell a Spanish versus British versus Italian mini painter, or is it more individual styles? I could say that maybe at one point you might be able, like, there used to be regional styles, but I don't think there are anymore. The internet has led away from that. I don't think they exist anymore. Yeah, you could maybe be like, oh, this guy learned from this guy. Like, oh, the people who paint, like, have learned from David Aroba have a sort of David Aroba style, or people who have maybe learned from me have sort of a Swinson style. But I don't think there's regional styles anymore. One Pingu. Hello, thanks for following. No, Spain does not have a recognizable style. You have recognizable artists in Spain, but Spain does not have a recognizable style. And I could maybe argue like Britain, you could argue like the heavy metal style is their style. So perhaps, but then a lot of people who aren't British paint with the heavy metal style, so you can't really say that's the British style. Sorry, the British style. Interesting. The NVV. Do you think the Brits like heavy metal because they have so many bank holidays to paint edges? It's just part of the culture, dude. They got that GWs in their culture. Yes, there it is. Whew, we did it, boys. The first, what does NVV stand for? You don't know NVV? Come on. I'm sorry. You're the butt of the joke. I apologize. We literally coined it this stream. It stands for non-velvety velvet. I'm being a troll because if you guys don't know me, I don't like these stupid terms and gimmicks, so. Oh, you paint SENMM? Wow, cool. It's like talking to my roommate. Oh, I gotta paint that OSL with the NMM and the acronyms. What color am I gonna do his creepy tentacles? I gotta figure out a color for the smoke too. I have not decided yet. His smoke antlers. Probably need more of a bluish tone for his hair, but I'm just gonna like get some paint down just to see what I think. So I don't know if I should do his hand beard as like actual hands or not. Am I working on highlighting the trim? No, I'm just getting some things base coated. Basically, the only thing that we've really painted lights on is the velvet robe. And it's supposed to work like this, where sort of the edges are the most shiny parts. It's probably going to require me going back and making some adjustments, but it should have given the general idea. Other parts I need to like make a bunch of decisions on. Like what color I'm going to paint these hands, his face, right? Like it's probably going to be skin tone. All the babies. Got to paint some babbies. I'll probably go look at the book after stream and see if there's any clue on that type of stuff. Should paint these tassels. What color do you guys think these tassels should be? Red? Or should the tassels... No, the tassels are going to be red. I was thinking maybe gold, but I'm going to do the bells like a brass. Because he's got brass bells. Oh, silver bells. Silver bells. Silver bells. It's Christmas time in the city. Gonna get DMCA'd. Da-da-da. Good thing my VODs aren't monetized. The things next to the button are distorted faces. At least according to other people's art. Okay, cool. Gonna have to look at that one too. I'm just gonna, for now, I'm gonna paint this stuff in black because I like a black base coat when doing non-metallic. just get this kind of covered a little bit. Could paint them silver, but I feel like it would work better as brass, so I'm going to probably do brass. Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate that. My NVV game is strong. Okay, besides slap chop, here's a question for chat. Besides slap chop, what's your most hated like dome terminology in mini painting? Like what maybe I should try some of this. Scarlet red? Let's see how this looks. It's a little darker, it might be slightly more transparent. Cape de base? Capa de base. Cape de base just means base coat. That's not a, I mean, that's a normal term. Parade ready? And what the heck does parade ready mean? We're going to introduce some color variation through reverse zenithal. That's a good one. Like that. How do you decide what color to make the smoke antlers? I haven't. Sometimes you got to let the color scheme develop as you go, you know? So I'm going to let my other decisions inform my future decision making. Here I'm going to try and get some of this slightly warmer red in like some of the downward facing reflections. This is another thing you often see with velvet is like you'll get some downward facing reflections. That's why I did like the underside of the arm there. Non-metallic metal is a mouthful. That's why we shorten it to NMNM. Parade is GW's expectation of what you should have for a display army. Oh, okay. I actually hate tabletop. Like just the term tabletop standard because it means absolutely nothing. Because everybody has a different definition of what tabletop standard means. Check Discord? Like right now? What's going on Discord? Where's my phone? Oh, we got another one? Heck yeah, dude. Getting them. Ooh, boy. The new haircut took 30 years with it. So how old do I look to you? So this is gonna, whatever you say, you're gonna think I looked, do I look 10 now? How old did I look before? Hmm? Oh, dude, I hope I see some NVV on the mini painting subreddit. The only subreddit that might be worse than mini painting is the Gunpla subreddit. That subreddit is insane, dude. They have like super strict rules. A.O. Estrooper. Hello. Thanks for following. This is too bright here. It's ruining the NVV, dude. We gotta tone it down. We need it darker in here. And it just doesn't need to draw that much attention anyways. So that you're not going to notice a lot in the Gunpla subreddit because the mods like ban everything. But they're like, the rules for posting are super strict. Like, oh, we don't like this, you can't post it. Not that I post anything, but who dat? Who dat is? Giant Sherman. Hi. I've been reading Warbreaker, or listening to, for those that, when I say reading, it bothers them because I listen to audiobooks. It's not bad. There's not a whole lot going on, though, I feel like. It's a lot of talking. Yeah, it's Anderson. Yeah, fake reader, dude, fake. Ugh, you have somebody else read the book to you? Fake. I also like Sword Nimi. Cool guy, what? Hello. Hi, welcome. Welcome to the stream. Alright, what are we gonna do with the face here? What are we gonna do? I don't know. I also don't know what I want to do with the staff yet. If I want to do like, just like a peppermint cane, kind of feel like that might be the way to go. Yeah. Would you like to destroy some evil today? I watched Murderbot. The show was pretty good. It wasn't bad. Well, let's see what this looks like. We get a different tone when we mix the red with the straight with the black. Oh, Chrome Num 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 Cane. Found you on YouTube via your Space Marines Faces. Absolutely incredible work. Thanks. Most people, I think. You know, that's like my most popular video by like a mile. I have plenty of videos with Space Marines in them, but that video in particular just caught the algorithm or whatever. It still gets a decent number of views. Is that a bit over the top with the peppermint cane? You didn't want to go full in your face spread? No, dude. No, I didn't want to. I don't want blood, you know. Like, he's going to eat this baby, but he hasn't yet. You know, he's thinking about it. Like, he's going to eat this, so I don't need a bunch of blood effects. I tend to not like gore effects too much on models anyways, just in general. Occasionally I'll do them, but I don't like them too much. Like, we can go over the top, just, you know, not with gore. But a peppermint cane? Yeah, I think that could work. This sword cane. Take some red. Maybe I'm going to do it with the magenta. You can't really see much of his face. I'm just going to get some color splashed down here. Just do like a glaze so I can kind of start to see some of these things. His face is like 90% facial hair. He's got big old eyebrows and a big mustache. First guest of Envy non-volumetric vortices? Nah, come on. These people, they don't know, dude. They don't know. They haven't learned yet, right? Oh, the classic burden. Yeah. Well, I don't know. What other, like, feel like the peppermint cane is pretty classic, right? Give us a chance to splash a bit more like saturated red on him too. But maybe not too, I don't know. You know, I gotta decide, right? This is why it's a work in progress. I feel pretty okay about the that so far. The trim reminds me of Dirty Snow. Nah, we're gonna add more light to the trim. Don't worry. We're gonna go much brighter, but like we'll go way up higher like that as we go. But we're just getting base coats down, you know. As we move through the value range, we'll get much lighter on the fur. Not too bright though. I like the more naturalistic look to a Santa Claus, you know? I like a Santa who looks like he stepped out of an antique shop, you know? Not this plastic Santa Claus with bright red and pure white fur. Give me realistic Santa. All right, I think I'm going to stop there for the night. I'm going to stop this recording, and I'll see you guys that are watching the VOD. I'll see you all next week for the when we continue this. Oh, look at Walter rated in. Hello.